Hello, talk of the timers, as opposed to old timers or big timers. Thank you for joining us. And I know that these things are important that we say, be sure to subscribe and tap the like and tap the bell so you get notifications. And then I'm going to just say that a couple of times more. And producer Stanton, in a color that I love. I think I said I loved it last week. So he doubled down on this beautiful peachy pink. Just, follow me. And here's the thing about me being virtually a witness protection comedian, and I'm so grateful for the amount of people that do follow me on all of the platforms. And I can honestly say it's organic. In fact, oh, thank you very much. I like when fans actually let me know we can't stick around. We got to go, but we were here and we'll watch tomorrow. Thank you. It makes it feel very authentic, like we're hanging out. You're like, hey, hate to leave the movie, but babysitter, because we know I've actually had that happen in a comedy club where a couple got up in the middle of my act and they were like, you're hilarious and we're loving it, but our babysitter's only paid through this time. I didn't do a long set. I think probably the middle ran a light. I'm always pretty professional. But getting back to the peachy pink font of liking me, when I first used to do Twitter, when I first tweeted, I wasn't good at it. Like I just basically got a Twitter handle because everybody said, you've got to be on Twitter. You'd be great at Twitter. You're so pithy. You're so articulate. You would love Twitter. Well, I could lie to you. I don't love Twitter. I'm getting used to it. I'm getting better at it. But I haven't found the social media platform yet, except I'm actually kind of starting to like YouTube. I really am. I'm not just saying that to suck up in case they're spying on me. I am a writer performer. I prefer long form. With the shorter form stuff, like Instagram, it's a photograph. Now they have IGTV, and I'll get better at that. And I keep talking about simulcasting. But when they first started with Instagram, my bit and my act, by the way, warning, I'm not usually salty on Saturday night. I mean, I say a little bit of language, but normally Saturday night's PG-13. It might get a little salty tonight because I've got some premises I want to share with you, new premises. But, the point I'm making is that when I first started seeing Twitter and I studied it, what it was, and I even a few months ago, I think I did a show on Saturday night where I talked about researching platforms and how they started in the first tweet sent and et cetera, et cetera. That's all available on Wikipedia now. Used to be you had to look stuff up. I'm not even talking Dewey Decimal System. I'm talking it just wasn't as easy to find it as it is now. You can find out anything. But that being said, I remember doing the show and talking about how Twitter was all about quick little bits of information of no consequence. That's how they got the word. That's how they decided to call it that. And we all now know in the past few weeks, it's been anything but of no consequence. I mean, we thought that before, but now it's really become consequential in a lot of ways. Now, that being said, originally Twitter, was like chicks, like, hey, here I am. What are we doing? Let's all meet up. And I thought, who are you that you think that your conversations have to be in real time in a public forum? And I guess that's the introvert in me. People assume that writer performers are extroverts. I'm on stage, I do things, and in this format, I do things. But in my private life, I'm actually private. Like I don't like a lot of people around me, and I like one-on-one as opposed to crowds. I don't go to parties, rarely, very rarely. Now nobody does, but I mean, I don't drink. It's very rare. Okay, this is true confession time. I've had 2 alcoholic beverages this week. 2. It's the same drink, but I've had it 2 times. Prior to the holidays, I'll get back to social media. Prior to the holidays, I feel terrible saying this, but my mother was staying with me. I know what you're thinking. That drives people to drink. but I didn't, not while she was here, although she drank wine many, many nights. She's recovering from total hip replacement surgery, and I really haven't had a lot of time to myself since her surgery. So on the day before New Year's Eve, on the 30th of December, I went down to Trader Joe's and they said, would you like to try gingerbread vodka? It was like a creamy drink, like eggnog, but it was like a gingerbread cream drink with vodka, like a liquid ginger snap with a kick. And I said, hail to the yeah. And since I knew that I was doing a charity event in San Diego on New Year's Eve on Zoom, and I'd have to drive to and from, and the person whose house I was going to, I would never drink and drive anyway. But it's in East County on a windy road, so you really had to have your wits about you, especially on New Year's Eve, knowing what kind of chuckleheads were out there. So on December 30th, I bought that bottle of gingerbread vodka, and I figured, I would share it with my mom, whatever. But she was enjoying her wine. So on December 30th, I had about that much gingerbread creamy drink over ice. And it was delicious. And I got a little loopy. It doesn't take much for me because I'm not a drinky pants. So this week was like the week that would never end. It was like the longest week. So I'll just kind of fill you in a little bit on why it seems so peculiarly long and wonderful and weird. So last Friday, I drive up to San Francisco to take my mother home. She'd been with me for 3 weeks. And so I drive up, and when I open my email, I have an email from a very important casting agent about a show that's going to be on a major cable network, blah, blah, blah. Would I like to self-tape? I respond, and no response. But it's after hours. I've been driving all day. It was one of those, because in my world, missing an email from an important casting agent is like, in most people's world, missing a phone call from a hot guy. Like missing a phone call from a hot guy now to me is like, meh. But work is important, and I remember how excited I was when the Kizik commercial worked out, the commercial for the shoes that some of you have seen. I think it's funny. Some people have seen the Kizik, Kizik ad, and have not figured out it was me. And then somebody will go, my friend Monique Marvez is in this ad. Well, there's only 3 people, 2 dudes and me. But I play this wealthy woman named Vivian with an overgrown son who's a failure to launch. And I don't look like me. I have false eyelashes. And anyway, so I was very excited about this, casting agent. But I figured I may not hear until Tuesday because Monday's Martin Luther King Day. So last Saturday night when I was with you guys, I was at my mother's. We had a baby running around. I was a little distracted, but I did my level best because I want you guys to know that when I pull up stories and I think about what I want to say to you, it's like when I used to drive into KFI. I don't take it any less seriously because it's YouTube and not a venerable talk radio station, the biggest talk radio station west of the Mississippi. You can always tell that a radio station is old and important when it only has 3 letters. West of the Mississippis are K's, east of the Mississippis are W's. If you didn't know that, I learned that working at KFI, which I love and still have many fans from those days. So Sunday I drive home, get up early, drive home. It's like, and these are long drives, 400 miles. I mean, I drove 800 miles last weekend. And I did a Zoom show, a 50th birthday party. I feel like I've lived 10 lives since just last Sunday, and it's only Saturday night. I did a 50th birthday roast. It was the first time I've done a private event like that on Zoom since the beginning of COVID, where I had a gallery of family members, and I was just like doing crowd work and abusing this 50-year-old man and his entire family. And evidently they really liked it, so I was happy about that. Then Monday was Martin Luther King Day. And it was a peculiar Martin Luther King Day. I could lie to you, but that's not how we roll. It wasn't peculiar because it was inauguration week. It wasn't peculiar because it was COVID. It wasn't peculiar because a 3-day weekend doesn't mean that much to people anymore. It was peculiar because all of these other very big things are going on. And because it's the first post BLM Martin Luther King Day, it's the first, post BLM MLK. How many more letters can we throw in? I felt like there was more, even though there weren't the traditional parades, etc. I felt like there was more attention and more considerate attention. I felt like there was more editorial comment and more television coverage and more stuff on social media platforms. And that made me happy because in a weird way, I feel like certain holidays sort of in these times, unless you can put on some sort of a slutty costume, or, blow something up, or, like Halloween's become really big. Halloween is huge. It's basically eaten up Thanksgiving. Let's be honest. Thanksgiving has not had a good run of it. It just hasn't. Like, pretty much it's Halloween and then like slutty costumes and excitement, and Christmas was already waiting in the wings anyway, because they start doing Christmas really early this year in particular. It seemed like, because who's shopping excited, has money, whatever. So you go straight from like fall slutty costume, jump over the turkey, right into Christmas. Bam, gingerbread vodka. And so I feel like there's a whole generation of people that are getting reacquainted with the reason why we have certain 3-day holidays. And for the record, there's a lot of people that don't know what December 7th is. They're not even aware. Like, as Americans, we always say, we'll never forget. And there are a lot of young people that really don't remember the gravity and impact that 9/11 had. At almost 20 years since that happened, there's a lot of Gen Zers that were babies, infants, small children. And even more so, there's a whole generation that doesn't know what Pearl Harbor Day is, December 7th. It's a big deal. It was a big deal to the generations before us. And I feel like if we're going to have holidays, and a lot of people are not aware that John F. Kennedy was actually the first president that made Thanksgiving officially a holiday. Like, we had it, it just wasn't official. I was very surprised to find that out, how recent it was that it was declared officially. So, Monday was Martin Luther King Day. And in the past, it's always kind of like a holiday. This year, banks are closed, of course, because it's a federal holiday. This year, I felt like there was a lot more observance, a lot more observance. There were stores that were closed. There were people that closed early. I saw that a lot more recognition of what it was and what it represents. So anyway, Monday was MLK Day. And Tuesday I got up early, and here's where it gets weird. Here's where the ginger vodka happened. I don't even know why I'm telling you guys this story, but I feel like my friend John called me today and reminded me of a lot of things about life. And when I say that, I mean capital L, because I've known John. He was my coworker at my last day job in Miami, where I sold medical malpractice insurance to physicians. That was my last job. Professional liability insurance. Like doctors have to have very expensive policies in place in case they accidentally kill somebody and get sued for it. I sold them those policies, which is the unfunniest thing you can even imagine. But it was a commission-based gig, and I figured, what's the best thing I can sell that isn't a house or a car? Professional liability. So there you have it. So John and I have been friends since then, and he's He's come to my open mics back very long ago. And we're at that age where we've actually had several mutual friends go tits up. I mean, we were actually discussing a close personal friend of both of ours, a school chum of his and a friend of mine that went tits up. And I don't say it like that, like, I mean, it wasn't like something now. It's not COVID. It was a long time ago. We've gotten used to it. And we both have sort of these weird, dark senses of humor. But we actually started the phone call talking about Hank Aaron. And I find it interesting that this week, the week of the inauguration and the week of MLK, we had two very contrasting deaths of important Americans. One was Larry King. And Larry King did a lot of things. He was a great interviewer. He's from Miami originally, or at least started his career in Miami. And, in Beverly Hills, he has, I think it's maybe called Brooklyn Bagel Store. He was an investor in a bagel store. But I've never been a fan. I have a friend who worked for him for many years. I always found him annoying. I mean, you're not supposed to say that, disparage the dead, but I like Tom Snyder, Dick Cavett. There was a lot of people that I've liked. I was a huge fan of Ted Koppel. I always thought he looked like the lost Kennedy, especially with the hair. He definitely had the Kennedy hair and teeth. So, but there was something about Larry King that always seemed pinky ring. That's the best way I can describe it. Smarmy's too strong a word, so I'll just say pinky ring. And the fact that, I mean, who am I to say? Because I'm going to tell you a story, the one I hesitated to tell before, but I'm going to tell it. He had a long-term affair with his wife's sister. First of all, there's not enough ginger vodka in the world that would make me sleep with Larry King at any age, not just when he was old and looked a little bit like the alien stepbrother. But, the fact that, I don't know, maybe he had a certain charm that I'm unaware of. But celebrity and money are aphrodisiacs in their own right. And his wife was very, very pretty. And the sister was evidently equally lovely. And that just seemed very Jerry Springer to me, that he got found out after. And it wasn't like a thing, like it was a holiday party and everybody got wrecked and he went in the wrong room. I mean, it went on for a while. So it's interesting when you read Larry King's obituary, not the one I just gave him. It talks about his professional life. There's not a lot said about him as a man. It's not like we're like, we lost this killer of, And on the other end of the spectrum, you have Hank Aaron. And Hank Aaron was a hell of a man. That's the best way. I mean, he was divine, actually. Let's not say hell. Let's say divine. And this was a man that when he was rounding the bases and coming in close on Babe Ruth's home run record, he was the object of an enormous amount of derision, prejudice, bigotry, death threats, him and his family. And I defy you to go to Getty Images, because I did it after my friend John and I talked about this. I defy you to find an image of Hank Aaron that looks hateful, disappointed, mean-spirited, downtrodden, disrespectful, un-American, un-Christian. You're not going to find it. He was an athlete with his physical body and an athlete with his soul and his spirit. He forgave people over and over and over and over. And he did it privately and quietly. Not because there wasn't Twitter, because he wasn't the kind of man that would have taken to Twitter. He just wasn't that man. He wasn't going to have short bursts of inconsequential information, not Hank Aaron. So I feel strongly that we lost something very special when Hank Aaron died. He was cut from the same cloth as Atticus Finch, except Atticus Finch is a literary character and Hank Aaron was real. So rest in peace, Hank Aaron. So now back to the gingerbread vodka. So Tuesday morning, oh, and by the way, sidebar, Monday afternoon, they were working, the people at the casting agency, and they were kind enough to say that I was on their radar and they liked me very much, but that the part had been cast, which makes you wonder, had I responded Friday afternoon instead of driving my mother home, would I have gotten the part? Is it just that fast? I don't know. But see, I'm a faith-based person, so I was just happy they said I was on their radar. In my mind, it wasn't meant to be, or I would have checked on it, while I was driving. Something would have said, check your email, because there is always something inside of me that says, do this or do that. I didn't check my email. I drove up with my mom, and it was a great day. We talked a lot. It was beautiful, and I felt good that I was taking her home, but I felt better that she'd had a really good time with me, a very good time. So over the course of the weekend, I had been talking to a lot of you remember from my KFI AM 640, and even back as far as Monique and the Man in San Diego, Jack FM, that I did endorsements for BMW. I'm a passionate person, and it wasn't, happenstance like, oh, I'm just going to do this commercial because they pay me. I have driven BMWs since 1997 when I was a broke-ass comic with bald tires and bad credit, and I bought one at a police auction that probably belonged to a wannabe Scarface for pennies on the dollar because they're good cars. You just can't break them. I had one car that I drove, the one I got at auction. I drove it for 88,000 miles in 1 year when I was a road comic. And all I did was one set of tires, one set of brakes, oil changes. So I'm very brand loyal, and they know that. So they called me and let me know that there was an electric one available, a hybrid. And I was very excited about that. And because of the world we live in and COVID and the economy, and I'm just wanting to get you to sign your life away and pay monthly since my car was almost paid off. I drove down to BMW Encinitas to get my electric car. Here's where it gets funky. I'm stalling because I'm embarrassed. Some of the 330 people know the story a little bit, but I'm going to tell you the story. So, July of 1999, I met a man on an airplane flying back to Los Angeles, to LAX, from Haneda Airport in Japan. I had been there to do a USO tour. It was the weekend, actually. It's so weird how things are tied together, that JFK Jr. was lost. And I remember because when the flight landed, my friend Leslie said to me, "Did you hear about JFK Jr.?" And she said it in that like what? And I was like, was he caught in a gay bar? Like the way she said it, I thought, what a scandal. Keep in mind, this is over 20 years ago, almost 22. She said, no, he's missing and presumed dead. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I would have really preferred he was gay and alive. And of course, we all know what unfolded over the course of that weekend. They weren't found, and there were a million interviews and television cycle. It was a different world. Pre 9/11, this story was the story. JFK Jr. disappearing. And of course, we later found out what happened. But that weekend, flying home from Japan, I met a man on an airplane We exchanged information. There's more to the story than that, but that's a story for another day, because the flight itself was very peculiar and the parting was peculiar. And and we kept in touch. And he told me that he was, separating from his wife, that he wanted to know me, and et cetera, et cetera. Which is why I have the bit in my act that says that, when a man says he's separated, make sure he's divorced, because he could be separated by a body of water, a restraining order, an area code. Some of you have heard the material. It's based on a real situation. So when I moved to San Diego to be with Dog of Satan, we got an apartment in Vista, California, off the 78, which is south of Camp Pendleton and north of San Diego / Carlsbad / Encinitas. I'm telling you all this for a reason. So everything has meaning to me. I'm one of these sentimental, bizarro people that attaches divine. I just do. I don't think anything's random or coincidental. So I drive to BMW Encinitas, where I knew everybody, but I don't anymore. And everything's different. And I said, I'm here to pick up my car from Anthony. And they said, Anthony? All new faces. That's disconcerting. But it's been 10 months since I've had my car serviced, because it wasn't necessary, even with all the drives to and from San Francisco. Crazy. 10 months. So I used to have to change my oil once every 3 weeks. So I said, they said, try Vista. We have a new dealership. It's a destination dealership. So we sent our best guys over there. And I called Anthony and he said, I'm so sorry for the confusion. Yes, I am at Vista. And you can see by my hesitation, even telling you the story is peculiar to me. That time where I was severely and supremely heartbroken, when Dog of Satan, basically, everything went to poo-poo. I said I was going to be salty, but it's just hard. It's like having dinner with your family. You guys are my family. So I even switched, I just kicked the tripod because I'm switching positions because I'm getting uncomfortable. But I think getting out of your comfort zone is where you could potentially be helpful to somebody else. So, has COVID freaked me out a little? Has not having a stand-up show per se freaked me out a little? But I'm very faith-based and pretty unshakable. But the bottom line is that heartbreak, if you've ever had if you've ever been deeply in love and it didn't just go bad, it went bad in the worst way that it could go bad, and you're bereft. There was a time when I cried so much that my girlfriend Deborah would call me from New York just to talk to me, and I couldn't talk. She would talk, and I would just like that kind of crying, like crazy people, like this far from nervous breakdown, heartbreak. And my friend Deborah at the end of the call would say, I love you. And I would mumble with no energy, your love sustains me. That's all I could say. I couldn't even say I love you back. Not because I didn't, because I felt like I didn't exist. Like I was so heartbroken, I literally felt like I didn't exist. Like I was just a camera observing life, like I was hollow. But she would call and talk at me for hours and say, I love you. You're going to get through this. I love you. And I would say, your love sustains me. And if you've ever felt like that, or maybe you feel that way now, maybe you've lost something incredibly important other than just familiar faces at a car dealership. There is a lot of loss. There is a lot of misunderstanding and cross wires and miscommunications and things not going the way we thought they were going to go. There's a whole lot of that going on. And the weird thing is, I felt grateful throughout this COVID. I have felt grateful that I've had that amazing heartbreak, because once you've had that, then it's different than the loss of, like, my father. Because my father, A, I knew he was going to die, and B, he was my father. You know what I mean? There was no misunderstanding or miscommunication. There was just profound loss. But it's like the difference between a wound with a razor blade. It was a terrible wound, but it was straight and it healed, and it's just a pink line. Is there, does it hurt? Can I remember the cut, the wound of losing my father? Every day. But it's a pink line. The situation with Dog of Satan was a ugly, big, pussy scab. Bad. Very bad. And because of the nature of the whole experience and how it played out, I felt like I can weather this storm. I can weather loss and disappointment and unmet expectations and, loss of face, shame. I can weather this. I can. But here's what's bizarre. On Tuesday, and again, nothing is random, I bought my car, the one I was turning in, at a particular juncture in my life, which was very challenging to me. But again, once you've had those big challenges, everything else is just degrees, whatever. But I was happy to be getting rid of it and having, for lack of a better term, something new during this experience. And here's the weird thing about the pause for the cause, about now. I firmly believe, and I got a text from a friend of mine, and here it is. On Thursday night, she texted at 21 minutes past 9 tonight. And I thought, let's just make it 21 seconds. Past 21 minutes, past the 21st hour, it will be the 21st minute of the 21st hour of the 21st day of the 21st year of the 21st century. Do you know how often that happens? Not very. I'm going to read it to you again because I want you to think about last Thursday night, just less than 48 hours ago. At 21 minutes past 9 tonight, she said, and I'm just going to throw in the 21 seconds. It will be the 21st minute of the 21st hour of the 21st day of the 21st year of the 21st century. I mean, my week, and when I say I, it's an invitation for you to think about your week. I don't know your week. I don't know your week. But I know that we're 10 months into this. And I know that on day one, and I'm sure Hector Baez has the footage, I remember that I wanted to create a mantra to get me through this. So when I started going live at 3:30 on Monique Marvez official fan page, and I originally said it was going to be 40 days in a row. 40, that's what I had no idea. 40. That, I came up with this little mantra where I said, fear stays here. I felt like I was getting on this invisible ark. There was something biblical, of biblical proportions going on, this global situation. Unprecedented. We keep using that word. Unprecedented. Like the 21st second of the 21st minute of the 21st hour of the 21st day. 21st year, the 21st century. So now I lost my train of thought. I was so excited about that. I'll get back to the vodka. I mean, not like back to the vodka. I mean, I'll get back to the story. So we keep using this word unprecedented. And I thought, I'll do 40 days. And then I'll probably be back on a cruise ship or something by then. Something will happen. And And I started, and as I thought about it being a journey, I said, fear stays here, meaning I'm not going to bring fear on the journey. I'm just not going to bring that on those 40 days. Fear stays here. All comes clear. That it's not going to make sense to me. There's so many things that don't make sense in real time. But if you soldier on and do what you need to do, you can create clarity. As I said, a rhythm from no rhythm. We knew we had a 3:30 temp pole. We were going to create a rhythm from no rhythm. And when I say all comes clear, I meant I would find the silver lining. I would find the opportunity. I would figure out what to do, how to pivot, how to rearrange my life, since I clearly was not going to be going back into a radio studio or getting on a stage. And so here we are, going and going and going. And so Monday was Monday. Tuesday I went to get my car, and I had this weird, beautiful melancholy, nostalgic melancholy, that I was getting into a new, better vehicle for less money. And the funny part of that is sometimes when something's really good, it's almost as uncomfortable as when it's really bad. You're waiting for sort of the bottom to drop out, or the other shoe to fall. Like when my people called me, when Anthony called me and said, hey, just so you know, because of the used car market is super hot right now, and we're flooded with these 5 Series electric cars, and I have an executive demo because I know you never buy a new car, blah, blah, blah. And it was one of those, can this really be happening? That I'm going to get a better car that I really like and save money? What? You know, even just less of a monthly payment while we're getting through this situation is a blessing. So as I left the dealership to drive on the 78, it turns out that the new dealership of Vista was on the same exit as the apartment complex that I lived with Dog of Satan for 90 days. That's how long it was, 90 days. And I remember it was the Emerald exit off of the 78. I remember the apartment complex because you could see it from the Costco parking lot. And as I got closer to it, there was even a house on the corner that we called the Tweaker house because tweakers lived in it. They used to sit out front, and they looked a little bit like Deliverance. You know, they just sit out there and you could tell they were high, or like very Better Call Saul meets Deliverance. And as I drove closer to the dealership and closer to my exit and closer to that experience, it was like nothing was going on, like no COVID, no life. Like I was instantly pulled back to a moment of deep sorrow and drama and heartbreak. And as I drove to the car dealership, I got anxietal. I never get anxietal. I had palpitations. Like I literally was having a minor anxiety attack. Like I was, like as I was getting off the exit, like a bunch of stuff came back over me, and I felt bizarre and anxious. Here's where it gets good. I get to the dealership, and as they're filling out the paperwork, this nice man named Corey says, I'd like to take you on a test drive and show you how the car works, because it's not like the car you're turning in. It's got some other features because of it being electric and modern and Apple CarPlay, blah, blah, blah. I'm so bananas, and I really am bananas in a lot of ways, that I said, let me ask you something, Corey. Do you believe in juju? He's like, I think I do, kind of. What do you mean? I said, well, I'm a very faith-based person. I'm not a church person, but I'm a faith-based person. And I had a horrible experience in an apartment complex near here. And I feel like I want to start anew. I feel like we're getting through this sort of tunnel, like an MRI. Like there's no point stopping it when you're halfway through because it's equal distance to end it and have to do it again or be done with it. And I think we're almost through. I keep saying it. I said, would you mind if I test drove us through an apartment complex and broke some juju in my new car? And he was like, no, I kind of get it. So he was actually cracking up as I was telling him the story of Dog of Satan, because I think it's just funny when you just refer to someone as Dog of Satan and you'll never say their name. And, you know, so I drove up into the parking lot, and even just driving by my own parking space, like it got worse. Like I was really anxious and upset. And like, you know, that's just maybe teeny tiny PTSD, like, ooh. But here's the beautiful part. Corey was so cool. And when I drove by my old parking space where I used to park, and my heart started beating really hard, then I just said, it's new now. You have a new car. And actually, I have a story about how election day felt on a day palindrome. And we'll talk about that when we get to the stories. And it's not too good to be true. I'm being provided for because I'm being of service, and I do believe in that. You know, the 300s, the YouTube, all of it. I don't make money at this. I don't care. I'm being of service because that's what you should do with what you have during these times. You know, if it were the Spanish flu, I would drive an ambulance, or for whom the bell tolls, or whatever. And we're being of service. I know people that have started doing DoorDash, not even because they need the money, but they feel like if people are locked in LA and they're sad, and you know, I can deliver food and make somebody happy and be careful, I'll do it. In fact, at the very beginning, when there was no toilet paper to be had, because producer Stanton and I are actually personal friends, producer Stanton offered to bring me toilet paper. It's like, you know, it's not like I'm the dowager from Downton Abbey, but it was like, it's okay. I don't need you to bring me commode paper. I will make do with baby wipes. Oh boy. So, you know, I got my car and I drove it home, and I felt relief. And I remember my first heartbreak in 1986, when my husband ran off with Melissa Ives, Melissa, 2 S's, Ives, everything in my act is real, telling myself, when I feel better, I'm going to get drunk. When I feel better, I'm gonna tie one on. And it never happened. I just felt better. And then I forgot. And to this day, I've never seen The Color Purple because it came out in 1986, and I refused to see something super sad when I was already super sad. So maybe the little bit of ginger vodka that I have left, I'll watch The Color Purple. When I got home in my car, and I drove home listening to wonderful music on my Apple Car, like I got home and I felt this equal measures of melancholy, nostalgia, and excitement. Like it was this weird gyroscope of emotions, of letting go of the past, and really allowing myself to believe in full faith that not only are good things happening, no shoe's going to drop and things are going to get better. And I know I say it every day, and I do believe it, but there's levels of understanding and believing things. There really are levels. Like when you're a little kid and your parents wake you up to go to school, and you close your eyes again, and then you open them, and it seems like they were never opened before, and then you close them and you open them again, and it's like a new level of awareness as you wake up and your brain wakes up. And that's how I felt driving home. There was a new level of optimism. There was a new level of letting go of the past and sort of surrendering it and understanding it's never going to be the way it was. It's just not. It's never going to go back. Just like now we're used to 9/11, and we're used to having to take our belts off. And some people, I'm waiting for the day that somebody flies in a thong, flip-flops, and a trench coat. I'm just waiting. It's going to happen. But how exciting is it to now be excited about just going anywhere. That we look forward to the day that we have to put stuff in Ziploc bags and take our shoes off. Like, hooray! I'll strip naked and get a sigmoidoscope. I can't, the tube that goes up your butt, sigmoidoscope. If I can fly to Paris. But the point is that, you know, there is going to be a vaccine, and there is going to be herd immunity eventually, and there is going to be a return of civility, and they're not like it ever was in the past. It's not going to be, you know, pinkies in the air and let's never discuss politics at the dinner table. But we are going to go back like a stitch in time and pick up things that we love, but we're going to bring them forward. We're not going to go back, because clocks don't go backwards. It's never going to be 21 seconds after the 21st minute, after the 21st hour, on the 21st day of the 21st year of the 21st century. It's never going to be that. It was Thursday night for a moment. And now we're used to masks, or even if we're just used to washing our hands all the time, or even if we don't have to wear masks in some places, but we have to wear them when we fly, or we have to get our temperatures taken if we're going into a stadium, or they don't sell as many seats to concerts. Whatever it is, we're going to get used to it. And we're going to move forward, and it's going to be okay. And as I felt that emotion, I came home and I thought, I'm going to watch. I've turned British because of my mother. We started with the Great British Bake Off, which was a blast. Loved it, watched every episode, including the holiday special ones. And I've actually been cooking more. Everything's an answer to a prayer, and I'm not very brave in the kitchen, but watching the Bake Off has made me get a little braver. I've been cooking a lot more, actually. It's been kind of inspiring. I cooked today. I was pretty excited. I made a frittata. It wasn't particularly good, but I made it, and I used up a bunch of vegetables that were going to spoil. And then we went on to The Crown. I hadn't watched The Crown. I watched all 4 seasons. And then I started Downton Abbey. And I very much enjoyed drinking my gingerbread creamy vodka drink and seeing beautiful places and hoping that someday that I could travel, and that I will travel. And I'll go see the English countryside. And I actually have a regular on the 3:30, David, who lives in the UK. He's there every day. He's one of our regulars. And we have discussed me visiting. And that's the world we live in. And he said he would take me to where they film the Great British Bake Off and where they film Downton Abbey. And I would go with him because I've seen his face and his goodwill for 300 days in a row. And I sent producer Stanton the video of the 300th day, which was yesterday. And he can show that a little bit later. But here's what's funny is that people were a little surprised, and I got some texts and a phone call from my mother, that because of all of the wonderful emotion that I had felt getting the car, the 9/21/21 on the 21, and the inauguration being behind us without any violence, mean-spiritedness. I'm not particularly concerned with being PC or cancel culture. I watch what I say because words are powerful. I've said it for years. My girlfriend Claudia and I had a very long discussion in the 80s about how words are like bullets, you know, and you can say something that just pierces somebody and just cuts them and hurts them, you know, just goes right into them. And I have a dear friend who posted on his Instagram that, why do you think they call it spelling? That words cast spells, that they create emotions and atmospheres. And I'd never thought about that. Spelling, casting spells. I loved it. And I think about it. And now more so than ever, I've become extremely conscious of not using particular verbiage when describing a situation, whatever the situation is. Because calling something a riot or an insurrection or a protest or a movement completely colors the way in which the listener or reader takes in the information about the event. Information, that's right. Thank you, producer Stanton. I am very put off by how reckless some media outlets are with their verbiage, or dare I say, incendiary, purposely creating strong negative emotion in people because it hooks people. People, it's sticky. You know, it's a lot harder for people to get stuck to good news and positivity. They get stuck like with the morbid curiosity, or, you know, the whole train wreck factor. So I had a bunch of stories that I pulled, but now you know the truth is that I had a wonderful ginger vodka when I brought my car home on Tuesday. And then last night, as I settled into a week where I could say, you know, well done. You covered a lot of ground, even if you just cover it in your mind. You check a lot of boxes. You learn things. The 300th show yesterday, I had a lot going on in my head. I was excited about it being the 300th show. And Hector, who makes these wonderful deep fakes, people send me messages and go, how do you make those movies? It's like, I don't make them. I can barely manage my Twitter and Instagram, but I'm learning. I'm here. And I've been there for 300 days and here for 38 shows. And that in itself makes me proud. The consistency and the desire to be of service, to show up for you and for me, as much for me, to create a rhythm from no rhythm, to have a place to perform, whether it's telling you a story or sharing an emotion that maybe makes you feel less alone because you're like, man, I thought I was the only one that felt that way. I guarantee you, you're most likely not. I love you too, Rob. He's one of the very faithful 3 o'clock, so 3:30s. So yesterday at 3 o'clock, thank you for reminding them to hit the like. So yesterday at 3 o'clock, incidentally, my hair's a little damp. It's raining in LA, and I walked my dog just prior to doing this show, and it's raining on the roof. I had on a rain hat, but yeah, but it's beautiful up there. It's misty and weird and very LA film noir. It's beautiful. Maybe that's just the way I'm feeling, and it colors everything. But it is so. That's how I feel, and it's how it looked to me. So yesterday, I was in my new car, driving to Larchmont to go for my evening walk. It's another rhythm from no rhythm. I walk about 5 nights a week, between 3.5 and 7 is my record. At least 10,000 steps, usually more. And I listen to good music or master classes. I try to use my mind while I'm walking and create material or positivity. And I had on the 70s at 7. And I love the song Layla. I love the song Layla very, very much. I talked about it today on the 3:30. There's a whole big long story about the song Layla. But it's a truly a beseeching, begging, remarkable love song written by Eric Clapton for Patty Boyd. And he used the name Layla because it's from a very old Persian love story called Layla and June. And I always say, Layla's success on the radio was because of the emotion within it and how powerful and wonderful it is, because there's really kind of 2 parts to the song. And the song was used in the movie Goodfellas in a very significant way. And it's also was used in an episode of The Sopranos. It's a prominent song. And The first half is, da 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 da. It's guitar and it's Layla got me on my knees, and it's like bam, right? And then he's tired. He's begged her. He said everything he could, and he's like, I'm wiped. The piano's going to have to take over. And we all know what that second half of Layla, that dun, 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 dun. And I always say that when I die and go to heaven, and I'm pretty sure that's where I will go, because I'm doing everything in my power to secure it on this end. And I do believe in it. That when I get to heaven, since maybe we get to make our own heaven, and it streams out of our brain or our spirit, and we project it around us just like a hologram, that my heaven will be playing the second half of Layla, where it's that beautiful instrumental piano. And just when it's going to end, you hear that wailing guitar come in, because he can't even speak. He loves her so much. He lets the guitar speak for him. And it just goes on for 3.5 minutes. And it's beautiful. It's heartbreaking. And it absolutely wrecked me yesterday that at the stroke of 3:30 on the 300th show, the day after the 21st second of the 21st minute of the 21st hour, that the stroke of 3:30 started the second half of Layla. And I had gotten so many lovely private messages and well wishes and, thank you for the 300. And I felt like we made it. We didn't just make it to Friday. We made it to some other shore. And I'm going to keep doing the 330s. Of course, I'm going to expand them. I'm going to bring them to, I keep saying I'm going to, but I am. I'm just trying to figure out the logistics to keep it authentic and powerful. And I felt like we were on another shore, like the very ugliest part of everything that needed to happen. That every old wound, micro my own and macro the country's, had just been brought up to be observed, to be healed, to be dealt with in some way. And that we all can move on in newer, more efficient, cleaner, more positive vehicles. And as that happened, I was overwhelmed with emotion, with joy, really. I really felt like we'd gotten someplace important. The micro as the 330, the macro as Americans, the mega macro as a world, as the globe, as the vaccine is unfurled and nothing tragic that can't be fixed happened. And to that end, I look forward to seeing a great many of you tomorrow at 3:30. Hopefully all of you and more next Saturday night. And it'll be a more traditional talk of our times. But it was just that kind of week. I had 2 alcoholic beverages in 1 week, Wednesday night and Friday night, Tuesday night and Friday night. So until next Saturday night, love hard, forgive harder, and get as happy as you can, as fast as you can. Good night, guys. We're live, and you can hear the end of Layla playing. Layla is my favorite love song. I'm going to take this off since I'm in my car. Wichita Lineman is my favorite love song, and Layla is my favorite overall song. And here it is. On show 300, this is not a coincidence. The 70s on 7 are honoring where we are. Show 300. And here's Layla. Eric Clapton. I always tell people that when I die and go to heaven, that this is what heaven will sound like.